Hey there. Be giving some thought as to whether I wanted to come on and say anything about the death of Neil Peart. Um, I can't say enough the influence Rush has had on me as an individual, as a fan of music. Um, Neil being one of the three pillars, and in my opinion, one of the greatest rock and roll bands of all time. Um, but for anyone who's been a Rush fan, it kind of goes beyond that. And I don't want to get into a whole thing that my music is better than your music. I don't want it to sound like that because I don't mean that. But Rush was kind of this special club. And to get it, you had to know Rush. You had to be a fan of Rush. And I love all kinds of music. But there was something special about Rush. Like I said, they weren't the first band I ever listened to. But the first time I heard them, and I'll never forget, I was in grade five. It was the last day of school. I had moved from one part of town. We were moving to another part of town. So it was sort of my last day in this school. And we had the final day party. And I remember someone said, people brought in records and literally LPs. I made you myself. And someone said, play Red Barchetta. And I was like, who sings Red Barchetta? And they looked at me like I was some kind of fool, like, well, Rush. I'm like, oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I was curious. And that summer, I worked in in the factory at my father's company for the summer. And that was the year Moving Pictures had come out. And listening to AM radio at the time, but Tom Sawyer, Limelight, all day long, over and over again. You know, I had just heard it in my last day of school, and now I'm hearing these songs every day. And I was hooked immediately. I remember I worked that summer, and all I wanted to do was buy a Rush album. And Moving Pictures was my first Rush album, and never looked back. Twisted my sister's arm to go halvesies with me on a second album, which was Fly By Night. To this day, she'll say she had no interest, but she's caught on to the Rush vibe over the years. Been to a few shows with me. My wife, who's not a Rush fan, been to two Rush concerts with me. In fact, the last Rush concert in Toronto, my wife, my mother, and my sister joined me, and I wish we had better seats. I cheaped out a little bit because I had to buy so many tickets. But anyways, that was a wonderful experience. But Neil Peart left us today. Well, actually, it wasn't today. It was a few days ago. Today being Friday, he passed away on Tuesday, and none of us had any idea he was sick. He succumbed to brain cancer, and kind of a extremely sad irony that a man that was known for his intelligence and died of brain cancer. But what an impact that he's had on me. I mean, someone that I've never met, and I'm not a typical fanboy. I don't, the whole word fan to me. I mean, I respect very few people in this world. Generally, my family first. I have some really great friends, and then there's a small circle of musicians that I really really respect, and I respect the effort that they put in, and I think Neil was the epitome of that. He wasn't a rock star. I mean, he was called the best drummer in the world, and all of these things, but he clearly was a very humble man who that was uncomfortable with being in the public eye. He was just passionate about playing the drums, and man, did he play those drums. And even, as he got on in his career, he just kept pushing himself to be better. He had a teacher. I mean, how could the greatest drummer in the world have a teacher? He had a thirst to learn and to get better. And if there's a takeaway that I can take from Neil Peart was the effort that he put into his passion. There clearly was no doubt in his mind what he wanted to do at all cost. Um, there couldn't have been, if he was worried financially or um, he clearly wanted to be a drummer, and plus he was well read and got the job as the lyricist in Rush, and all of a sudden there's a drummer who doesn't sing but writes the lyrics for a progressive rock band. Amazing. But anyways, I don't want to ramble on too much, but he made such an impact on my life and obviously influenced me musically. But I always admired how they carried themselves as human beings. And, in this day of social media, I mean, we see a lot of artists and it's all about the show and, making everything perfect, and with computer assistance, and it's all smoke and mirrors. But, the very philosophy of Rush was just challenge themselves musically and give it everything they've got. And the fans knew that. And if I would ever, and I've met Geddy and Alex, and I've actually said some of these things, but we get it. We always got it. And and speaking of Neil today, he really represented that. I mean, he gave it his all. I mean, I saw them live 35 times. I haven't missed a tour since 1984. Saw them multiple times on some tours. In total, probably seen them live 35 times, and they never mailed it in. And watching Neil Peart, with his complex drumming and those 3-hour shows and no opening band and barely a break. The break was the drum solo. Absolutely amazing. And a piece of my childhood died today. And I think having a band like Rush is my favorite band. Certainly am blessed because they gave us 45 years, and certainly we couldn't ask for a minute more. And I want to thank the surviving members of the band, and I want to offer my condolences. And to anyone out there who's a fan of Rush, we can all hold hands today. It's a very tight knit community. It remains it's still a tight knit community, and I'm having a lot of fun watching all these new Rush fans and all these reaction channels of people discovering Rush for the first time. And I'm certain Rush's music will live on for a long time. And just wanted to put a few words out for Neil Peart, and my condolences to all those who knew him and loved him.